Okay, so in this chapter we're going to create two more elements of our go-kart. We're going to create some bodywork to cover up this area. We'll call it the hood. And if you can imagine, you're driving through the rain. It's just to keep some wind off your legs and some moisture off your legs. And we're also going to create a seat for the driver here. You may have noticed I've added these elements over here. They're just basically symmetry modifiers added to the front mudguard and the back mudguard. So to make things a little bit easier to see what's going on in this chapter, I'm just going to hide these elements. So let me just do that now. So let's make a start on the hood. That's probably the easiest of the two elements. I'm going to start off with a plane. Let's just draw this roughly in place. We just need this to be here and all the way down to here. Let's draw this in wireframe. Get rid of any subdivisions at this point. We'll put these in later, so for now it's best to start off with nothing. Convert to editable poly. Just pull these vertices a little bit back here, and these are fine I think for now. And I want these to be in the middle of the world, so I'll just select these and snap to 0 on the y-axis. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to put the symmetry modifier on while I'm working, so it's more of an interactive tool. So let's just go in here, go down, get the symmetry modifier, change it to the y-axis, flip it, get the mirror axis, snap it to the steering wheel. That's cool. And you can see now it's basically given us our symmetrical geometry. And then on top of the stack, I just want to put a turbo smooth modifier. We'll just give it a couple of iterations. And okay, so let's move this into position up here. Same thing here. Just going to roughly shape this out. So we wanted to fill this area. So we wanted to come basically right up to this point here. So let's just move this in here. And let's just come in here slightly. That gives us our basic form. So let's start subdividing this up now. Start putting in more concrete form. Just do some connections here. That's enough in that axis. And we'll do the same thing in this axis. Just do a ring selection, connection. Let's just keep it to 1 for now. I'm just going to move this in space until I get roughly the shape that I want. Something like that. Let's have a look at the end result at this point. You can see we've got this curved shape, which looks quite nice. And you can see that at the top here, where, because it's interpolating through here, the curve isn't pulling up as far as we need it to. So there's two ways we can fix that. We can either overcompensate with these vertices. We can just pull these up till this matches, which is fair enough. Or we can put in some more edges here and make it fit a little bit better. So let's try doing that. Oops, didn't quite work out there. Let's just try that again. Select that, ring, connect. That's better. Now we can just pull this around. We've localized the curve a little bit here now, so we'll look at this. That's probably going too high at the front now, as you can see. But at the back, it's working better, I think. So we can just make adjustments after. It's easy enough. Obviously, we're going to have to do a kind of combination of the two. Just pull this in position. And down here, we want to relax this down quite a bit. Let's try and keep the forms here. We don't want to end up with nasty curves going on. You can see we're not quite right here. Definitely not right here, so let's just pull these down. to position. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of fiddling around going on usually with sub Ds. You know, you pull things around and it's a very fluid process. It's very enjoyable. It's quite relaxing. As long as you bear in mind, obviously, you know, what's going on with the geometry. You shouldn't really try and fight against it. Let's just pull this out here so it follows the frame a little bit better. Same thing here. Now, something we're getting close to here is that it's this brake pedal. Now, your leg is going to have to push against that. Your foot, obviously, you're going to have to put your foot on it and push on it to make the go-kart brake. And the shape of this hood at the moment, that's not really going to be possible because it's actually outside the hood. Your leg's going to be inside the hood, which means you can't actually brake. Obviously, you can put your legs outside and that will be fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just modify the design here so that you can actually keep your legs inside and push against it. And for that to happen, we really need a hole here. It's very easy to make a hole in NURBS. You can just basically select a polygon and delete it. But for that to happen, we need to have the geometry in a slightly better position for us. So let's just select this edge here, do a loop selection, turn on edge constraints. Very, very useful tool, as I said earlier, and you can see why now. We're just going to move this up here, and we really need quite a bit of room here for this to poke through. So let's actually move this up here quite a bit. And then I'm going to select this edge here, ring, connect, move down. So now we've basically got the makings of a hole here. We need the same thing here. Let's do the same kind of thing. Let's just do a ring, connection, 2. And that's fine, I think. And that's for this rod. Basically, as you turn this rod's going to move back and forth, so we need a hole there. Now we need the edges above and below, so let's do that. Let's do a ring, connection. We need 2, it's fine. And we're going to get this one here, do a loop. We're going to pull this around somewhat. Actually, to do that, we need to turn off edge constraint. And you can see that it's probably a good idea actually to put edge constraint as a keyboard shortcut, because you basically toggle it on and off so often. And now I'm going to use a soft selection because I want to kind of pull this out here and I want the geometry around it to move as well. So let's turn on soft selections here and we'll just limit it somewhat. I'm just going to pull this around. We're just basically creating a bulge in the bodywork here, which will allow us to get our foot to this pedal. Let's pull this out here. And don't worry, I'm going to remodel things to match up here, so you get some nice curves. So let's have a look at this with end result turned on. So you can see now we've got this kind of bulge coming out here. Do the same here. Let's just make an edge, sorry, a vertex modification here. We'll do the same thing here as well. We need to pull these out somewhat. Let me just turn off soft selection at this point. I just want to be precise here. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is just get these curves to flow a little bit better. So look at this. Yeah, maybe that sticks out a little bit too much now. Just pull this here. Just try and create a curve in more than one axis. This is another thing which is very important with sub Ds. It's very easy to get, you know, locked up in working on curves in just one axis. Curves take place in all axes, you know, so you have to really look at the curve from all different sides and move things around until you get a nice flowing curve in all directions. You shouldn't just fixate on one axis, you know, don't get fixated on just the curve here. Look at it from all angles. You can see from here now this is maybe a little bit severe the way this kind of curves over here, so we can just adjust here and allow it to flow a bit better. As you can see, we can now pull this down. So this will give us a better hole here. It's making room for this hole. And also you can see the bodywork is being pulled up here by the soft selection. So let's just pull this back down. Same here. back into position. Just down here, pull this out slightly. So now we've got some better forms going on here. Pull this out slightly. So we've got a kind of bulge here. Just this in a bit. Have this curve out here. And before we go any further, let's actually punch the hole in here. So select this polygon, press delete. There's our hole. And you can see now we've inadvertently pulled it out so far it's actually fouling this rod. We just need to pull this back in a bit. And let's just do both vertices. We just need this to come inside so it clears here. There we are, which will allow this to move back and forth. You can see you're able to put your foot on the pedal inside here. And let's just move this up slightly, just to give a bit more room here. And let's do the same with these in correspondence. There we go. So yeah, I mean, you can get the basic idea. We can create this hood quite easily. A nice flowing organic shape. We've got the hole that we need here. Well, and you know, if you found that when you were animating this didn't quite work, this hole wasn't quite the right size, when the character moved its foot, this was actually intersecting with this bodywork around here. It's pretty easy to just grab these vertices and make some adjustments to the model to actually get this to work better. And as I said, it's a very fluid way of modeling, so it's very forgiving in that respect. You can just go in later and make fine adjustments as they are needed. So we just need to make some changes here just to allow this rod through. So let's just pull this down here slightly. There we go. Have a look here. Not a bad shape here, is it, I suppose? So we want to kind of keep this. So maybe let's have a look here. Have that do this a bit more. Same thing here. Pull this over slightly. Just making some adjustments to these curves here. And we haven't really got a nice position for that holder. Let me just try it. Actually not too bad, but it's a little bit too high, as you can see. Let me just undo that. We'll just try putting in a connection between here and here. Let's see what that gives us. That's not particularly attractive, is it really? But it would actually allow us to have the hole where we want it to be. So let's just turn off edges. You can see it actually gives us a decent enough surface at that point. We can actually then move things around there, adjust things so we get that hole to be a little bit neater, if need be. So I think that's enough for the bodywork of the car for now. You can obviously go in and create your own hood and finesse it as needs be. The main thing here is that, you know, you can adjust these curves as long as you want to, really. This is not really something that requires any particular tutelage. It's more of an eye thing. You just need to keep on moving vertices around until you get the curves to do, you know, what you want. This particular part of the body. But you can see here that the moment that we put in vertices, the more vertices we put in, the harder it gets to model things. Because it's not that the vertices in themselves make the surface any worse. It's just that you just have to move more vertices around to maintain the same kind of curvature that you had earlier, as you can see here. When I'm making some changes here, it's making this area here harder to model. So something to be aware of. Don't just add, you know, edges willy-nilly. Really consider that, you know, what you're doing before you add them, because Extra edges give you extra control, but it also means that you've got more edges to adjust whenever you want to make any basic adjustment to the surface. So you can see that in this circumstance here, just a small adjustment here required, moving around quite a few edges there. And I can just do a loop selection on this, turn on constraints, edge constraint, pull this in. Actually, let me just get these edges here. Yeah, so we can just pull this in here, make it a little bit tighter. Same thing here, just do that loop. Like these here. So got something of a rounder hole here, and then we can just move this edge up here slightly. Don't forget it's constrained, so it'll actually move across the surface. So we can just pull this up slightly. Grab here, move it down. Actually, it's just popping a bit there, isn't it? So let's just move it down on this axis. And as you can see now, you've got a nice kind of hole there for the rod to go through. Just turn off edge. I'll just move this down so it's a little bit more sympathetic to this. And I think that kind of demonstrates things for the hood. Let's move on now and do the seat. Just turn off the constraints there. Yeah, so let's just move this as well before we move on. Yeah, you can just suck up hours of your time doing this. So there's the bonnet. Let's move on to the seat. Actually, let me just quickly make some adjustments here. Looking wireframe, yeah, we're losing this here. So this is actually going inside the frame here. So there we are. Just pull that. Same here. There we go. Okay, we're gonna basically use the same kind of technique to do the seat. It's almost exactly the same kind of modeling problem. So we'll go in, create a plane. We'll convert it to an editable poly. Select these vertices, snap them to the central axis. Pull these vertices out to here, here, here. We'll put a symmetry modifier on, pop that on, y-axis, flip, get the mirror axis, snap it to the steering wheel, okay that, and then on top we'll put the obligatory turbo smooth. There we are. Isolane explicit normals. And you can see it's a little bit low at the moment, so easy enough to fix. Just move it up. And now we'll start modeling. First thing we need is a back to the seat. So let's just shift, drag this up here, move it roughly into position. We need this eventually to be higher, so let's just do that straight away. It needs to be higher. Make sure it doesn't intersect. That's looking pretty good. And now we need some subdivisions. That's a given. So, but before we do that, let's just mold this slightly. So we want it to be this kind of shape. We want it to come out here, let's say. This is fine here. So that's looking pretty good. I think it's a basic shape. Just put in some subdivisions, connect to. See the end result. If we pull this down, get some curvature here. Need to pull that forward slightly. Pull this over here. Bow this out slightly. This is where the back side's going to go, so we just pull this down a bit so we got some curvature in here. We'll have a ridge here to kind of give some shaping for the legs. And I think that's basically it at the moment. We can't really do much more with the amount of geometry that we have there. We can probably pull these forward slightly, so we give it a little bit of curvature to the back. Pull the back in to compensate. There we are. You can see it's doing too much up there, but just pull that forward a bit. We'll just curve this down here slightly. Pull this forward. So got some curve here. Let's just leave that out there. Okay, in the next stage, we're just going to do a ring selection, connect, keep it at 2, and now we can pull things around a little bit more. You can see we definitely got some intersections here, so we're going to have to pull this forward slightly. So let's just do it from this axis. There we are. And I want to create more curvature for the back here, so let's just push this in. Same here. Now we're going to just move this up. There we are. So we're creating a nice arch here. Move this around until we get, that looks quite nice, I think. Looking pretty cool. As I said, we're just going to pull this up slightly. And then where we have the legs, we're going to pull this down. So we're going to create basically a dip where the legs slot in. So there we go. So we've got the central ridge here. Just pull this a bit. And you can see it's dropped too low now. We need to just pull everything up to counteract that. So let's do that. Like these, just move it up slightly. There we are. Nothing too hardcore there. A bit further. Now we can just pull this down again. Not looking too bad. Maybe this could be curved out quite a bit more. Look here, let's try that. Yeah, it looks a little bit nicer now, don't you think? These can be moved out to adjust as well. And let's just create some more sort of support for the back here. So I'm just going to go in and add a few more edges in here. This is a bit blobby here. Can you see? It's a little bit soft. So let's just select a ring, connect. We just want one at this point. It's okay that. Same thing here. Ring, connect. And the same thing here as well. Just going to do ring, connect. We've just got a little bit more control at these points. So just pull this forward and here. I'm just creating sort of some support for the arms here and the sides of the body. Pull these out to, support that. Obviously, again, more than one dimension you need for this curve. So let's just pull this out here. Looking quite nice. We need some more curvature here for the back. You can see it's a little bit hard. So let's just move this down slightly. And at this point, just going to move this. Look here, yeah. Let's move this back a bit. You see here, this is a bit flat as well. Just pull this down. We can probably pull this in slightly. Just make this a little bit harder. Here, as you can see. Let's adjust this until we get our curve back. Looks pretty good. Maybe this out here, this much is maybe a little bit overkill. So as you can see, there's a lot of pulling around, adjusting, and this will go on for quite a while really. This is very common. Now let's just pull this up here a little bit further. Same here. I mean, if you look at person's driving height, they're probably, this needs to be up here maybe a bit more, just to give some more support to the neck. And yeah, we can pull this here somewhat. Pull this in slightly. See what we think. Not bad. I think we can just get this edge here. Let me just get this and do a loop. Turn on the edge constraint. Move this up slightly. There we go. Yeah, that looks quite cool actually. It's gone back a bit too far. Getting sort of strange shapes here. Something to be aware of as ever. Curves taking place in more than one dimension, as I mentioned. This is very important to keep an eye on. Pull this forward a bit. It's looking pretty cool, I think. Yeah, and maybe let's pull this in slightly here. Just to create a bit of a pinch at this point. Yeah, that looks quite nice actually. Just pull that in there. Bit as well. So you can see you've got a little bit of a sort of waist to the seat now. That looks pretty cool, I think. And we just need to adjust slightly because it's going through the frame again. So let's just pull it forward, all of it really, from Europe. There we are. Let's fix that. Just a little bit more. Make sure we aren't interpenetrating anywhere else. Nope, that looks pretty cool. And let's just adjust this. Pull this down slightly. We've got this ridge now between the legs. Kind of hold the legs in place. Maybe, actually, if you look at it from here, could do with maybe a little bit more curvature for the legs. Let's just turn this off here. Pull that down slightly more. And this. Just pull these up a bit. Yep, looks pretty good to me. Just pull this down slightly. We'll keep on getting this penetration here, so let's just pull this up. There we are. Maybe pull this up slightly actually. There we go. And I think that'll do for the seat and the bonnet of the car. As you can see, pretty easy to model. Let's just give them a nicer color. Let's go in here. Let's just say something like this. Actually, go for that. Ooh, that's a little bit bright, isn't it? Okay, what about that? Yeah, that's nicer. So there you go. There's the bonnet of the car, and we also have the seat of the car. We've got holes there for the driver to be able to still push the pedals. If we find that these holes aren't big enough and you know, the feet couldn't get there, there's a couple of adjustments we can make. We can actually make this hole bigger here, and we can pull it back in this direction more to give more room for the feet. move around here. The other thing we could consider doing is actually adjusting the pedal, making it larger, moving it in further inside the bodywork here, so it actually sticks in here further. So the person could actually push against it more easily because it actually sticks in here further. So we can do a couple of adjustments based on, you know, model changes that we've made here. It's a little bit lumpy on the bodywork here, but, you know, by all means go in and have a play with this and maybe come up with your own completely different design. You can see this curve here kind of dips in here. It's not that elegant there. And there's definitely a little bit of warping going on there. So definitely room for improvement on this bonnet. But it does give you, you know, a basic idea of what you can do. You know, by all means go in here, grab some vertices like this, you know, just pull these around and try and get these shapes to be a little bit more elegant. Obviously I'm pushed for time here, but you're not. So, well, hopefully you're not anyway. So by all means, please have a go at modeling this and getting this to be a slightly nicer shape than I've had time to do here. So yeah, as I said, that's it really for these elements. We'll move on now into the next chapter, and we'll finish off with the purely sub-D modeling elements of this DVD. And we're going to look at quite a tough element. It's deceptively tough anyway. And then in the next section of the DVD, we'll come back to many of these elements and I'll show you some other things that we can do to them to actually make them better. And there's some things which actually may be quite obvious and maybe sort of begging an answer. So at that point, you'll see what I'm talking about. Other things are not so obvious. Anyway, so let's move on and we'll have a look at the cog, which is here at the back of the go-kart. We're going to have a go at splicing this up and actually turn it into a proper cog where the actual drive chain would come on from the engine and drive the wheel. So let's do that now.